All right, so it is 6 o'clock on Monday, April 19th. I will call to order this meeting of the Liquor Control Board. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilor Mike Myers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have just one item on for Liquor Control Board tonight, and that is approval of an amended sidewalk usage permit for Mule Bar. It's not clear to me what's amended or what changed here.
What changed here was the space they were requesting on the bump out in front of their establishment. Previously, they had requested a smaller space and then ultimately wanted to use the full space. Okay, thank you. Any questions or concerns from council on this permit amendment? All right. Would someone like to move to approve the amended sidewalk permit for the Mule Bar?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Jim. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn the Liquor Control Board?
So moved.
Motion by Bryn, second by Mike. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. We will now meet as the Winooski Community Development Trust Board of Trustees. It is 6:02 p.m. on Monday, April 19th. I'll call this meeting to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Deputy Mayor Hal Colston.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have just one item for this meeting as well. This is to approve the FY22 WCDC Trust Fund allocation, the amount of $225,000 to the Winooski General Fund for the Community Development Corporation. This is a step we take every year after the budget to correctly allocate these funds. In the budget, I believe it had initially been set to 300,000 and we've reduced it to 225 to keep things balanced. Jesse, Heather, anything you want to add?
Heather prepared these materials, so I will let her take the lead here.
The only thing that I wanted to add is that I had included a memo and some background documents.
Thank you.
All of you have that background. I know that Bryn hasn't been part of this process before, so just so you're aware of how this process works. And it's very much about maintaining a transparent process. So
thank you, Heather. Any questions from council? Bryn?
Can you just explain what intergovernmental line item is in the proposed budget and why that had revenue in FY20 but is not anticipated this year?
I'm going to defer to Angela on that. I am assuming that is about the general fund transfer, but I'm not absolutely certain on that. No?
So is this the WCDC budget in the general fund, or is this the Board of Trustees? So in the general fund, the expense side for the WCDC is a transfer to the general fund to pay for administrative fees like human resources and finance to offset those costs to the general fund. The revenue may be the internal transfer from one fund to another. We may have had some funds that belonged from one place to another.
Okay, and then, so I'm looking at the WCD FY22 proposed budget sheet. So if that helps for what I'm looking at.
So that is what Angela just answered. I think what she was trying to clarify is what you're doing right now as the Board of Trustees of the WCDC is really accepting the payment of $225,000 and reallocate from the TIF and reallocating it back to the city's general fund. And then later in your city council budget, you'll see the actual approval of the FY22 CDC fund. So the process difference, but Angela is accurate in how she answered the budget intergovernment transfer question.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Would someone like to move to approve the FY22 WCDC trust fund allocation?
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second by Hal. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. It is now 6:06 p.m., Monday, April 19th. I will call to order the Winooski City Council. Please join us again in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Mayor Hal Colston.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
First up is agenda review. Are there any questions, concerns about the order of the agenda? All right. Next up is public comment. So this is a chance for members of the public to speak to any issue that is not included on tonight's agenda. So if you are here for something that's on the agenda, please wait until we reach that item. I know we had some folks sign up in advance, so I will turn it to Paul to bring folks over.
Thank you, Mayor Lott. We have one person signed up tonight, and that is Michael Webster. Michael, whenever you are ready.
Hi, you can just hear me. You can't see me, right?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, so I saw news in the Vermont Digger that made me very uncomfortable with the relationship that the city has with the O'Brien Center. And it's built, so some of it's built on my perception. I was quite disappointed to see that that organization had set up pole dancing, which I think is a motif for commercial sex, and sends really the wrong message to kids in a community center. But in light of the recent allegations, I think there's an opportunity for you guys to pause and consider maybe severing that contract. In our family, we're closer to some of the immigrant communities, and we don't get the sense that that organization really was that robust in representing what especially the youth needs. So I would ask you at least to look into that and consider maybe severing that relationship and starting anew. That's all.
Thank you, Michael. We are having an executive session on that tonight to receive counsel from our city attorney. So some update will be coming out in the near future. Do we have anyone else who would like to make public comment? If you didn't sign up in advance, you can use the chat or raise hand feature in Zoom to indicate. All right, seeing no further public comment, we can move on to our consent agenda. It's a pretty lengthy one this evening. We have our liquor control and council minutes from April 5th, accounts payable warrants and payroll warrant, the TA60 town financial report, annual approval of local emergency management plan. These are statutory activities we do every year. An Arbor Day proclamation, which is also becoming an annual statutory activity. The lifeguard contract that we reviewed at our last meeting, commission liaison appointments, which we discussed at our previous meeting, and housing stability update that staff put together for us. Are there any questions on any of the items in the consent agenda? All right. Would someone like to make a motion to approve items A through H in our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. So moving on to council reports. Bryn, may I start with you?
Sure. I have not yet attended officially one of the commissions, but I did sit in on finance this past week. Passed some pretty important policy documents. I'm sure Christine Mayer-Lott will go into that in her council update. Green Up Day is around the corner, so I believe that'll happen before our next council meeting. So looking forward to celebrating that with residents. Again, I'm on the board for Green Up Day, so looking forward to seeing many folks out there on May 1st. Don't have any other items to report at this time.
Thank you. Jim.
Thank you. So kind of on the other end of the Arbor Day proclamation, I'm excited that the city of Winooski has been awarded Tree City USA status again this year. And this makes us one of 9 municipalities in the state that's achieving this designation. So I'm appreciative of the work the staff has done to make this possible. So thank you. And thank you to the tree board volunteers who have worked hard on this as well. At a recent tree board meeting, we are planning for an Arbor Day celebration this year. While there are several tree plantings happening across the city, we'll be doing something slightly different this year and involving a community tree contest. So look out for more details on that soon. And if you have a favorite tree, start thinking about sharing it with us. And those are the only updates that I have tonight.
Thank you, Jim. Hal.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Winooski Coalition meeting this morning, and there was a special presentation by Cassie, I think Torre is her last name. She's the Director of Public Policy at the National Alcohol Beverage Control Association, which has been around since 1938, and they're a repository of alcohol consumption information. And I think the point of her presentation was to show the history of alcohol regulation and how it might inform cannabis regulation. One of the things that I learned from her presentation that, we're a control state as opposed to a licensed state. And we have in place a 3-tier system, which connects producers, distributors, and retailers. So I thought it was a great meeting to have a deeper understanding about how we might apply some of those strategies to how we could consider controlling the cannabis industry, which is about to be stood up. So that was that meeting. And then on April 13th, I attended the SHCP meeting, and it was great to be back after being away for a little bit of time. There was just kind of some updates about how things are going. The community gardening program is going really strong and doing well. There was a report about the soccer program, how that's 50% up from last year. So that's a good thing. And we focused a lot on learning from this group of community residents who put together a survey around policing, and to understand from our residents, what folks are looking for, what are their aspirations around what policing might look like. And this effort is certainly supported by our chief, and we had a chance to weigh in and get some feedback about the actual survey tool, and how it might really help start a conversation about, what do our residents think about how policing should look going forward. So it was a good meeting to be a part of.
That's great. Thanks, Hal.
Mm-hmm.
Mike.
Yes, I have only one thing to report. Winooski Youth Baseball is about to start. The signups, the deadline is the end of this month. And the president of Winooski Youth Baseball, Jeff Brussel, had informed me that he's still looking for players of all ages for the youth programs. If anyone out there is interested, they can email me or they can get into the Winooski Youth website and find out for themselves.
Thanks, Mike. Last Monday, we had our first kickoff of meeting of the City Manager Search Committee. Had a great discussion about qualifications. Grounded that discussion in some reflection on unconscious bias and in long-term visions for Winooski. We received input from some city staff, a little bit of public input, still receiving input via email. Anyone can reach out to me with thoughts there. And we will be meeting again next Monday to talk about questions that will be used to interview candidates. I think the job posting will be finalized probably this week so that we can get that posted and start looking for applicants. As Britton mentioned, Finance Commission had their meeting and reviewed our policies on revenue and receivables, as well as purchasing. And the commission members added some, I don't know, I feel like they helped tweak these policies just to make them a little bit clearer so that they are easier to understand for staff and the public and anyone involved. Planning Commission held a public hearing for some changes to our downtown core zoning. There were no public attendees for that hearing. However, the changes being proposed are fairly minor and in an area of our city that's basically fully developed. So lower impact than some of the other things that are being discussed down the road, like with form-based code. They voted to move those forward to us. So that will be coming up in a future meeting on top of what we're seeing this evening. So there'll be a series of proposed changes coming out of the Planning Commission for us to host public hearings on. That is it for me, and I will pass it to Jesse for our city updates.
Thank you. A bunch of updates for you tonight. So as always, I'll start with a COVID update. We had 15 new cases last week. We've seen about a 2.5% increase in COVID cases over the last 3 weeks. So just a reminder to folks to wear a mask when in the presence of others, socially distance, wash your hands, and now get a vaccine because it is open for all. Additionally, a reminder that daily testing continues at the O'Brien Community Center, 2 to 8 Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and 9 to 3 all other days, and walk-ins are encouraged. And of course, with vaccines open to all, we really encourage everyone to register. You can do so at healthvermont.gov/myvaccine or call 855-722-7878. And you cannot walk up to a vaccine clinic, so you do need to register. I wanted to give the council a brief overview about the transition efforts that are underway. We'll be talking more about this at our next meeting. But John, Phoebe, and I have started to meet weekly to plan for the transition. We will be providing the council a copy of the full transition plan once it is finalized, where we will spend the next few weeks working through that to make sure we don't miss anything. But generally speaking, after May 14th, we will be asking you to contact the co-interim manager for who is overseeing your relevant question. So you'll have this in writing at a later date, but just to let you know now, John will be in charge of public works, public safety, police, fire and code, and development, including planning and zoning and community and economic development. And then Phoebe will be in charge of community services, so parks, rec, thrive, libraries, finance, the clerk's office, and of course, human resources. So if you have questions about any of those things, you can go directly to the interim manager. Our hope is that Phoebe and John and the mayor will continue to meet weekly, just as the mayor and I currently do, to maintain that consistency. And the transition plan will also include which co-interim is responsible for communication to our key partner organizations. So the school district, USCRI, et cetera. We really want to make sure that those communication lines remain open. And then finally, we are working to finalize transition agreements with both John and Phoebe, and we'll be bringing those to you for consideration at your next meeting. So we have a couple of public works updates we wanted to be sure to highlight for you today. This year, we will begin street sweeping on May 3rd. This is a really critical part of not only maintaining our infrastructure and our vibrancy, but also ensuring that what goes into our stormwater system is as clean as possible. So that will start on May 3rd. We are doing it by areas of the city this year and are really asking for the public's cooperation to not park on the street when your street is planned for sweeping. There is a map of that on the website with the zones that we will be functioning in and the dates that we will be in your neighborhood. We will also be signing the streets the night before they will be swept. So keep your eyes out for those. And thanks to Paul and John and Ryan for putting together a bunch of communication material on that. It's that time of the year where we start. Mike, Christine, do you want me to pause here? Or?
Yeah, Mike, you have a question about street sweeping?
I do. A quick question, Jesse. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but did the city reach out to the garbage haulers? Because I know all the garbage haulers put the totes go on the street side, the curb side. I don't know if years past, if that's been an issue for the city worker. And I don't know if there's something that can be done about that.
Yeah, good question, Mike. So I will let John talk if we specifically reached out to them. I don't believe that's been an issue in the past because usually folks put their garbage totes either in their driveway or on a green belt. So the sweepers are able to continue along their sweeping. But John, do you have anything to add to that?
No, it's a good point. We'll make some calls this week just to, hopefully get some cooperation from those folks too if we need it. Thanks.
Could be maybe a little article in Front Porch Forum because I know like my green belt on Bellevue Street is not big enough to contain, so the side it does cover the sidewalk a little bit, but I mean it's maneuverable for people walking through, but just to make sure we get a good clean. It's good to see the curbside clean after they go through because it's nice and neat.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good question, Mike. Thank you. So it's also the time of year where we start getting questions about line striping. So as you probably know, we can't stripe the pavement until the weather is a little warmer to ensure that the paint adheres. So currently our plan, since the weather is warming up and we can start, is that the last week of April, we will be painting the Main and Teigen intersection and those relevant turn lanes, and also the dedicated right-hand turn on East Allen and East Spring Street. Then in May and early June, we'll be repainting the entire East Allen corridor. That's going to be done by a contractor. And then in July, we will be doing the citywide crosswalk repainting. So keep your eyes out for that. Two other public works updates. Construction is going to start again on Hickok Street for this second phase of that reconstruction project. We anticipate that resuming on April 26th, and we'll go through the first half of July. We have been in touch with the property owners that we had contact information for from last year's or the 2 years ago efforts, and we're also doing door hangers so residents know what to expect. And then on the Main Street Revitalization Project, as you know, we are anticipating construction to start next spring. Right now, we are in the process of collecting contact information from as many renters, property owners, businesses along Main Street as we can to ensure that everyone has the most up-to-date information that they can. We're also leaving door hangers for them to collect that information. We have posted the right-of-way plans and are working through those about 100 right-of-way agreements that we need to move that project forward. And John and Paul and Ryan have set up a direct email about Main Street. It's mainstreet@winooskivt.gov. Again, mainstreet@winooskivt.gov. So if you have any questions about that project, you can get directly in touch with the team that way. As I hope you all have heard, we have officially hired an equity director. Yasmin Gordon will be starting as the city's equity director on May 10th, and we are just thrilled to have her on the team and really encourage you to go on our website or social media channels to learn more about her and to help welcome her to the city in May. A couple of quick things I just want to make sure are on your radar screens. As you know, CCRPC and partners have been doing a Interstate 89 2050 study process to look at the exits in Chittenden County and plan for those over the next 50 years. So there will be a virtual public meeting on that study on the 29th of April at 7 p.m. To discuss the possibilities for future exits if you are interested in that. We are also at the time of year where we do our National Prescription Drug Take Back Day. This is an opportunity for folks to return unused or unwanted prescriptions in a safe way. So that is Saturday, April 24th, this coming Saturday, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We will be collecting those in the lobby of the police department. So really encourage you to drop off any unused or unwanted prescriptions. Just a friendly reminder, we are doing, as you all know, we are doing a citywide parking study, and we have a survey out in the community right now about people's parking methods, how they park at their homes, how they park for work or going out downtown, and really are trying to get as many folks to complete that as possible. Again, that's linked off of our website. Want to give you a quick heads up that the schedule and program registration information for Myers Memorial Pool will be released next week. So keep your eyes out for details on swim lessons and the schedule for the pool. I also want to, as Bryn mentioned in her council update, remind you that May 1st is Green Up Day from 9 to noon. Go out with your family, your neighbors, masked, socially distanced. You can pick up bags from City Hall, the OCC, or the Armory. And either return them to the OCC at the end of the day or leave them in a conspicuous place around the city, and we will circle around Sunday afternoon and pick them up. And then finally, I wanted to share with you that unfortunately our youth interventionist Yule has given notice. He is committed to some family obligations and will not be able to continue in that position. So we are considering the future of that position in context of some expanded community services programming that you will hear about later on your agenda. But just wanted to let you know that that change was happening. That's all I have tonight. Thanks very much.
Thank you. We will move into our regular items. So first up for approval, we have new appointments for the Safe, Healthy, Connected People Commission. Myself, Chief Audie, Chief Heber, and one of our lieutenants as well, Anne Ray Coffey. There was quite a slate of interviewers for these appointees, and the commission chair, Mary Husman. So the three candidates that we saw are being recommended here to you, and I think the group was pretty excited about all three of them. We do have Catherine Lowe here and Thomas Renner, two of the appointees. So I don't know, maybe I see Catherine's picture showing up first. Would you like to just briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Catherine. I live in Winooski, obviously. Super excited about this opportunity. I think they're recommending me as an alternate. And I work as a physical therapist up at UVM.
Thank you. And Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, I'm Thomas Renner. I've been living in Winooski for almost 5 years. I'm up in the St. Mike's area now, but I used to be right in the middle of downtown. I also work at the medical center. I oversee some of the neurology clinics there. And yeah, really excited to hopefully be joining the committee.
Thank you. And then our third appointee recommendation is Dallas Wheatley, who you may remember from our recent town meeting day city council race. I think the interviewers, the group of us, were impressed by how each of you were excited about thinking about the policy level of creating safe, healthy, connected people in Winooski. So any questions from council for our potential appointees here? Bryn?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for your enthusiasm. I think there's going to be a lot of really cool conversation coming with the equity director. I know Hal has mentioned in our last council meeting how he's looking forward to joining this commission again. So I'm very excited to just see all the conversation and engagement that comes from it. So thank you.
Hearing no concerns or questions, would someone like to move to approve these appointments?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Jim, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you again for volunteering and coming aboard.
Thank you very much.
All right. We will move on to our next item. You are welcome to stay and listen to the meeting or move on with your evenings. Item B is up for discussion. This is VTrans Circulator Concrete Roadway Repair Presentation. John, would you like to introduce? Where did John go? Did we lose him?
Yes, he's coming back.
And it looks like we may have somebody from VTrans here.
I'm back. I disappeared into the ether for a minute. So I can kind of set the table for this one. So I think most of you have heard of this project that's coming this season. It's a VTrans project where they're looking to do repair work on the concrete section of the western portion of Circulator. So think of Restaurant Row, Post Office, Mule Bar, former Tiny Tie, that section of concrete. So we've asked VTrans to come here tonight to kind of give an overview of what the project is and kind of talk about outreach and potentially schedule. So I'm just going to introduce the project team for you all from VTrans, and then I'm going to kind of give it to them. So we have Matt Bogacek, who is the VTrans project manager for this work. Darren Conley, who's the VTrans resident engineer, and Natalie Boyle, who's the public information consultant for the project. So with that, we'll transfer over to these folks.
Yeah, hi, this is Natalie. Thank you for having us. Thank you for letting us give a quick kind of overview for you. And if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them. I'm the public outreach person, so I am the main point of contact, particularly once this program gets going or this project gets going. I've kind of walked the streets already. I've been in touch with Meredith, Bay, Tyack. I've been in touch with several people in the community already. Got some information out to the businesses, trying to continue my outreach and keep as many people in the loop as possible. And so that's my main overview of my role, is to really reach out to the community, make sure EMS, police, municipalities, schools, libraries, all of that are in the loop. They kind of know what to expect and when it's coming. And that most importantly, that they can reach out to me directly. Typically, if you reach out to the AOT main line, it's going to take a couple days for it to filter down to me anyway. So if you get in touch with me, I have, I can call Matt, I can call Darren, I can get in touch with the contractor, and typically we can get issues resolved, or at least get them on the front burner pretty quickly. So that's really important. We understand the impact this is going to have to the restaurateurs and the small business owners in the area. So we're very, very aware of that. We're trying to be very open, very transparent. We've had good meetings so far, so we're really happy about that. I think I'll turn it over to Matt, and he can give kind of a project overview, and then if Darren wants to weigh in on anything, and then we can just go through sources of information when they're done speaking and answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Natalie. So I'm Matt Bogacek. I am the project manager on the VTrans side for this project. Just a very quick, brief overview of what we're doing, what the location is, kind of what you can expect in a pretty general timeline for right now. So the project is essentially everywhere that you can see exposed concrete slabs is something that would be considered part of the project limits. Basically, we're starting just across the bridge or starting on the Winooski side of the bridge over the Winooski River, heading up north through the Circulator. And this particular project terminates at the West Allen Street intersection. So generally speaking, all of the work is going to be within that Circulator, and then just a small leg down to the south. These limits were defined based on some additional work that's going to take place on a future project on West Allen and up Main Street heading towards Colchester. So they were intentional, not just random ending points. So the project is a joint repair and maintenance type project. So what we will be doing is coming through and diamond grinding the surface, which is going to give a level surface to drive over, should be quite a bit smoother than what you see out there today. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of a bump to the slabs currently. Sorry, I was losing my word there. So the diamond grinding is going to come through and smooth out that surface. Then it'll be followed up with some joint repair. The joints have deteriorated over time. We will be looking to clean out some of the unsound concrete in some of the former repair material, and we'll be replacing it with new repair material and new concrete. And then finally, we'll take care of the joints that are not being addressed in the true repair work. Anything that's out there that's still the original joint or the original size joint will be filled in with a hot poured joint sealer to try to keep the water up and out of it, to maintain those joints and make sure that they last as long as possible. So what you can expect to see are a couple of different activities taking place throughout the summer. The project should be kicking off in the next month, roughly. We are working with the contractor right now to have them finalize all of their submittals before they get the official notice to proceed. Contractors SD Ireland, like I said, they're working through those submittals right now, and we're expecting in roughly a month or so they'll be out there. But Natalie will be providing that information once we have some more clear and defined information to get out there. So activities. Back to my main point is you will see a diamond grinding activity taking place. Right now, it's anticipated that they're going to diamond grind in Burlington. This entire project is part of a composite contract. So the exposed slabs that are at the end of Interstate 189 and on US 7, kind of in front of Buffalo Wild Wings, are a portion of this entire contract. So the contractor is going to be working between the two locations, same exact scope. Makes sense to bundle them together and hopefully get some benefit of bundling in prices. So like I said, they're going to start diamond grinding probably over in Burlington, and the intent is to move directly from diamond grinding in Burlington over to Winooski to perform that work to start the process. So there should be some activity relatively early in the summer. And then as of right now, the contractor's intent is to begin the joint repair work in the Burlington intersection. There's slightly less repair in that area, and then they're planning to move to Winooski to do the joint repair on the Circulator area. So there should be two separate times where you're probably going to see some busy activity with contractors work in either area, but do know that they are progressing both project areas. So there will be times where they'll be in Burlington, but they may not be showing up in Winooski. They'll be back. They do have to come back and finish it up. The contract is currently set to be complete in the beginning of October. I'm going to leave it somewhat ambiguous because weather days do play a factor in that. So all of the work should be completed very early in October. Weather days will factor in, could be first, second week of October, but the contract does require that they are completed roughly around that time. What am I missing? What am I forgetting? Seemed like there was one other piece. Maybe I'll turn it.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So did you just say that this work is going to start next month and it will not complete until October?
That's correct.
Okay. Just clarifying. So I'll let you all finish before we move to further questions or deeper discussion.
Sure. That gave me the time to remind myself of the piece that I was missing. So one important factor to this is obviously the traffic through Winooski, and we did recognize that there's a very large amount of traffic that uses the circulator consistently. For this project, we are requiring that all work is done at night. This is across the board between this project and the Burlington project. The earliest that the contractor will be allowed in the roadway will be at 7 p.m. and they'll be off the road, I believe, at 6 a.m. the next morning. The only piece that's a little different in Winooski is the area where there are parking stalls. As on the side of the median where there are the parking stalls, we've restricted the work to just outside the what we've heard was the dinner rush. So the contractor is not allowed to work in that bay until after 9 p.m. So out in the roadway and in the circulator, the formal circulator, they'll be allowed to work at 7 o'clock. And in the parking stall area, they won't be able to get into the roadway until 9 p.m. I think those were all of the main points that I needed to make. Darren, did you have anything to add that I may have missed?
No, I think you hit all the points. I believe the fear is like we're gonna like be there from May to October, but there's gonna be a large gap, like weeks on end, where we're not gonna be there doing much or anything at all, and then we'll be there for like several weeks when we do get there, and we will be doing our best to control sound, dust, and all the factors to make life as easy for the patrons of Winooski. So,
great point. Thanks, Darren.
Well, thank you for the update. And I believe our Downtown Business Association did advocate for night work. So I'm pleased to see that you're able to accommodate that. Why don't we open it up to questions from council? Bryn.
Hi, thank you for coming and presenting tonight. Definitely have been looking forward to this presentation. So thank you all. I have seen the constant contact notice related to this. I know the materials that came out with the council agenda have a link to an example, but I have seen the one that is posted on your constant contact. Is constant contact your main form of communication with the residents?
Yes. So it runs through the AOT, the agency's constant contact account. So I'm a consultant, so I'm contracted out to the agency. So that's how they choose to send out updates and alerts, things like that. However, I have also handed out and distributed as widely as I can my email address and my phone number. And I encourage everybody to share that and to tell people to call me. So, and also at the bottom of the constant contact is my contact information as well. So, everyone that I've spoken with, and I did some really great door-to-door, probably in, maybe it was mid-March, third week of March, I can't quite remember now. I went intentionally at a like 2 to 4 o'clock window so that I would catch most of them open, but not during their rush, and was able to speak with many of the owners and make sure I personally handed them my contact information. So I'm curious, do you have access to an AOT or state Front Porch Forum account? A lot of our residents do receive their information through Front Porch Forum. Yeah, so my understanding is the AOT actually got rid of their Front Porch Forum account quite a while ago, and probably 3 years now, maybe 4. And what they prefer is that I supply the information to each municipality, and whoever posts for your municipality to the Front Porch Forum, they get that information from me. So it would be great for me to know who typically updates and posts to your Front Porch Forum.
Yes, I would highly advocate for that coordination, because that is one of the primary sources that we use. So certainly if you weren't already going to do that, I would ask Jesse and our stand-ins, Phoebe and John, to coordinate with you on those communications as well.
So
Jesse.
Natalie, Paul Sarn, who is here as the Winooski Square, is our communications coordinator. He can be reached at communications@winooskivt.gov, and he would be happy to partner with you on getting out everything to our community.
Great. I've been in touch with Paul, and I see Ray Coffey is here, and Heather. I've been in communication with some of these folks already, so that's great. And I'll make sure that he gets, I'll communicate with him directly so he gets whatever he needs for that to be posted.
And if I'm allowed, I do have a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
Natalie, are you the point of contact for the additional AOT projects that are going to happen? I'm not sure when, but I think John has mentioned that there will be work closer to exit 15 and then with the Double Diamond interchange, knowing that those projects are coming up within the next year or so.
So I'm not on the Double Diamond interchange, but I know who is, so I can get that information to you. And I'm not familiar with the exit 15, so I can do some searching though and get that information to you guys.
So I think that project is probably discussing the Class 1 bituminous paving project that's coming out, would be my guess, which is going to kind of take care of all of the rest of the Class 1 town highways within Winooski, also coupled with Burlington at the same time. We have not assigned a public information consultant to that project yet, but we will once we get a little bit closer to advertisement. That one's scheduled to be heading out for advertisement this coming winter, so 21 to 22, with the intent to construct in 22. And we will have someone definitely on that project. It's just not assigned yet.
Okay.
And one quick shameless plug too, if you're looking for more project information anywhere, Natalie's smiling because she's heard me do this before. Please spread the word. Google search the word VTransparency. It can pop up with a project map. It will give you all of the construction projects through the agency in the current construction year +2. So this year plus 22 and 23. It will pop up with a fact sheet and will give you some contact information. If there is a public information consultant that's been hired, their contact information will be at the bottom of that page. Otherwise, there'll be project manager's information, general schedule, general scope, that sort of thing. So my very shameless plug to check in on that. The DDI project does have a fact sheet. I think it's pretty well in depth. And that public information consultant's information's at the bottom on that one as well.
Okay, thank you. And then a last question for me for the moment. I'm just thinking about the schedule and timing. So the west side of the Circulator is where, and the north side is where a predominant amount of our downtown businesses are located. I don't know if the owners have mentioned this or have discussed this at all, but is it possible to have work scheduled like Monday through Wednesday so the weekends aren't as interrupted? I know that we've just expanded the outdoor space to one of the for our house for one of the parking spots. Just at the top of the hour, we approved expanded sidewalk space. So just thinking about noise and dust for those businesses as work starts and days of the week.
Yeah, it's a great question and something that I anticipate discussing. So as we look at these contracts, we're having to evaluate how many restrictions we can put in place and still get a fair price from the contractor. At the end of the day, after a project's bid, VTrans has to justify the cost of the project back to FHWA, who has a portion in funding this project. It's an 80-20 split on this one. So we look to balance as best we can the impacts to traffic and businesses and surrounding properties with getting a fair enough price there, or a justifiable price. In this case, we elected to work at night, thinking that, we're going to have a reduction in the traffic impacts, and we should be outside of business hours at a certain point, of course. And additionally, we did elect to push some of the hours off a little bit later in the parking lot area, or the parking stall area. So the contract currently is not structured such that there's days of the week that they would not be allowed to work. The anticipation or the plan, I believe right now, is to work Sunday night through Thursday night. So there will be, Darren, I'm hoping you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but I believe that's the plan is Sunday night through Thursday night. So they would have Friday night, Saturday night off from construction activities. So it's really just trying to work that balance. In the more restrictions you put in place, obviously the higher cost that comes back.
Well, I know I'm reassured for the businesses that they can have a little bit of hopeful relief on Friday and Saturday nights, which will be bigger business and will be very important for recovering from the pandemic. So thank you.
Do other councilors have questions? Mike?
Hey folks, thanks for coming tonight. I'm going to echo on what Bryn said. Now, the night work starting Sunday night to Thursday night, how intrusive is the sound of these machines to the residents that live in these apartments above the businesses?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there will be some noise that'll take place. The construction activities they're going to be noisy. There are some provisions in the contract that they will do everything that they can to mitigate sound as much as possible. But there will be some noise that will take place. There are some numbers in the contract related to decibels and in certain requests or requirements that they would have. In particular, night work tends to require the term is a squawker that I can remember, not the the beeping backup alarm, but it's a squawk type or a whooshing type sound. So there's some reduction, where we can find a reduction in the amount of noise that we're going to make. We're doing that. And we are consistently going to be monitoring and trying to keep noise to an absolute minimum as feasible.
Okay. These big grinding machines that are going to be grinding the cement down. I find it hard to believe that those are going to be very quiet though. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Because I need VTrans to understand that our city is under siege right now with the trains, the F-35s, and our citizens are under some stress on the noise. So I'm hoping, I don't know if Sunday night is the answer. People have to get up Monday to go to work. So the other question I have on this scheduling as well is you're going back and forth to Burlington to us, and it seems like your intersection in Burlington it's a busy intersection, but not for businesses. So my question on the scheduling is, why can't we just get to the point of getting this project started so we can get in and out instead of sharing time going back and forth? I mean, it sounds to me that you're just delaying the project longer for our residents in Burlington or in Winooski business owners. Yeah, so that directly goes back to how many restrictions we put into the contract. So typically when we let a composite contract like this, whether it's a concrete repair type project or another paving project, which is typically what I'm putting out, we leave it relatively open for the contractor to decide the best and most efficient way for them to complete the work. We allow them to schedule it as much as possible so that they can tell us the fastest and therefore cheapest way to get it done. So there will be some back and forth between the two. They are on the hook to get both projects completed, but there is that openness there in scheduling where they're going to determine their best effort or their best schedule to complete all of the work in the time given. Okay, my follow-up question is, when this all started, I was under the impression way back when we started discussing this, that the Main Street portion was going to be fixed along with this project. And it seems to me that this has changed. Can you answer any of that?
Sure. So we have been coordinating on the bituminous project. So that's the 2022 project. We've had some coordination with John and others in the city of Winooski, and the request has been made that we take a look at removing the slabs in that area. So we have evaluated it. We've determined that there's a little bit of a trade-off in the Main Street revitalization project in the amount of area that we would be paving. So it does seem like it's a feasible swap. So rather than us go and spend the money to maintain those slabs for about a year, the intent is that in 2022 with the bituminous project, those slabs will be removed and that road will turn back to your traditional paved road or a blacktop road. So that's why we cut the limits off where they were.
Okay. This is, I think I'm remembering this now. So with all the traffic that we get down that Main Street, people that have not lived in Winooski don't remember back when Main Street was paved and all the heavy trucks going down Main Street made a real mess of Main Street. That's why they went to the concrete slabs. So I'm trying to figure out how that, has the engineering gotten better in the last, in that time frame? Is that what you're saying, that the pavement will be fine for the heavy duty commercial trucking that goes down Main Street?
It is a concern that we've discussed with the city. We've had these conversations to say, this is why the concrete was put in the first place. Basically the reasons that you identified. There was heavy truck traffic in the past. There was some shoving of the pavement. Pavement has come a ways. It has progressed in the past few decades, really, since the concrete's been put in. So there have been some improvements. There is still a slight concern that the pavement could ripple a little bit. But the thought process with this is that pavement is something that is maintained constantly every day throughout the state. There are many contractors that take care of pavement all across the state. So it's something that's very easy to maintain and really bring back into shape. So we're going to we put together a design, a pavement thickness design that should handle all of the traffic. We have tools to evaluate what is required to go out there. We are putting out some of the stronger, the stronger mix designs, or we're calling for the stronger mix designs in that area to hopefully counteract that shoving activity that could take place. But the pavement will deteriorate at some point. The thought process is that we're going to use every tool that we can to put out the best pavement structure that we possibly can to hopefully not see those come back prematurely.
And that's because that's scheduled to start on 2022. And
that's
then
correct.
Is it, and I don't know if this is a Jesse or John question or yourself, the VTrans, is this the responsibility of VTrans? Is this portion of Main Street being the route it is?
So yes and no. VTrans has a statutory responsibility to maintain the surface of all Class 1 highways across the state on a schedule. So what that boils down to is VTrans has set up roughly a revolving schedule of Class 1s throughout the entire state. We come back in that roughly 15-year cycle to maintain the surface. And that boils down to basically a 2-inch mill and fill type project. So in about 15 years, you could expect that we'll be back to do a traditional type paving project where we'll mill down 2 inches and pave back 2 inches to take care of those surface distresses. Because it is a Class 1 town highway, work that takes place or work that's required to maintain that road between that cycle does fall back to the city to maintain it. And then if there are additional subsurface issues that may be present, we are limited with the scope that, we are in that top 2 inches of roadway.
Okay.
Yeah, and Mike, I can piggyback on to what Matt was saying too, just to help clarify. So, behind the scenes, we've been doing our due diligence on the pavement section, reviewing it in-house, reviewing it with other consultants, talking with suppliers to get comfortable that asphalt pavement section is going to be adequate for that slope section that comes into the circulator. So we're talking about above the circulator to the railroad bridge. That's the section that would get replaced with bituminous asphalt. And as Matt said, pavement design has changed quite a bit in the last, 40 years since that original concrete was installed. So we're comfortable at this point with the pavement design. The other part of that is the repair for the concrete section. The proposed repair was to just repair those joints that are currently there, similar to the diamond grind, similar to what they're doing. As you've probably seen, those joints are, foot wide in some locations. So, to us, the risk of really not having a great fix for those joints and still having that really poor ride quality was a major concern. And knowing that VTrans can only come back in 20 years, we're on the hook to sort of fix those joints. And that's a pretty expensive process. And it's contractors that are out of state that we usually have to call to do those joint repairs. So to us, the asphalt bituminous pavement was actually less risk averse because we can handle asphalt pavement if it shoves a little bit. Local contractors, we can even do it in-house. So we're way more comfortable with dealing with the asphalt than having to deal with the existing concrete structure that's there.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I'm just going to let you know if there's other Winooski residents watching our meeting tonight that have been here for 50, 60 years, the cracks in the concrete slabs are a far cry from what the road used to be like. And the only people enjoying that road, if it turns into what it used to be like, are going to be kids on their BMX bicycles. Because I remember when I was a kid, that road was dangerous. And that's what I'm questioning the pavement. And that's all.
Other counselors with questions on this topic?
Thank you.
Are there any questions from members of the public? I feel like this has been a very robust discussion, and I know much more about this project than when we began. So thank you, VTrans folks, for coming in to share this with us, and looking forward to the future updates.
Mayor, can I say one more thing? Actually, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I have another, I just thought of it too. The quality control officer that's going to be dealing with the dust in the concrete, if there's going to be significant issues going on with people complaining, is there a plan B that SD Ireland is going to have to ensuring that, because that dust it's not the most pleasant stuff to inhale?
Yeah, so we will have VTrans representatives, at a minimum, representatives or staff members out on the project to be monitoring what's going on with construction. If we are finding that dust is becoming an issue, there are ways that we can mitigate that through like a calcium chloride application. The diamond grinding activities that are taking place, there's actually a water application with that process. So it should be almost negligible, the amount of dust that's going to kick up from that. I can't imagine you're going to see much. It's really the only time that there could be some dust is when they're working on the joints to try to get them cleaned out before we apply the new repair material. And in those cases, we're just going to be consistently monitoring. We do not want to be creating dust. There are I believe there's some OSHA regulations on, the dust formation and how much is acceptable, which is basically none. So we'll be watching very, very closely and making sure that dust is not becoming an issue.
Because as you can imagine, as the governor eases up the restrictions, the front stores there are going to be open for business. And if, I'm just worried about them stressing out about losing business because of this. But thank you for answering my questions.
Sure thing.
All right, so we will move on to our next item. Item C is our third quarter treasurer's report, and Alex will be coming over to give us a brief summary. Hi, Alex, welcome.
Hi, good evening, City Council. It's an honor to present the third quarter treasurer's financial report. It's great to see that the city has, in many cases, closed or surpassed the original budget that was produced almost 2 years ago. The greatest change with this report is that the burn up and burn down charts have been added. Hopefully these help visualize kind of the city's progress through the year. Christy and I have been working diligently on this. There are going to be other reports available, but we wanted to sort of set this up first, make sure these are understandable and helpful before we kind of continue to provide additional reports, which will be available to interact with on Tableau Public as well. That will be sort of the final destination of those reports. So we're looking for any kind of feedback for those as part of this meeting. Otherwise, there really wasn't any significant changes as far as the financials go. It's great to see for the parking fund, for example, that the year-to-date revenue is only about 12% behind year-to-date over last year. And historically, the last quarter is the strongest as it kind of come into the summer season. So hopefully, we'll see that percentage close even further. As far as any kind of potential risks, healthcare costs, for example, on the general fund did bump up. The projections bumped by about 50K over last quarter. That's always kind of a risk, is that they're understated, and as kind of come into last quarter, they can swiftly bump. But that's always a risk. So it's not anything in particular or anything that the city can really do about. So it's not anything that indicates poorly on the city. Otherwise, it's great to see the city has presented a realistic budget that, even though through a global pandemic, the city has generally managed to meet initial budget expectations. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Alex. Are there questions from council on this update? Bryn.
Yeah, I am curious, was there a budget adjustment after the governor's order last March?
There was not, no.
Okay. The burn charts are helpful, so thank you for sharing those. I'll definitely be interested in seeing any other additional visualizations that you have, data visualizations, especially like year-over-year comparisons.
Yeah, we are going to launch all of this. So, there's a process of pulling all of our financials. I have to drop them into sort of my own formatted form of data, and then we will push those to Tableau Public. So once sort of that discussion has been had on what is available and what shouldn't be available publicly, users, both the public and city council, will be able to play and extract and look at historical information. A lot of that won't be included in this report because it'll be too much to present. But all of that will be, ideally once the format is approved, we'll be able to go back basically as many years as the data is available.
Great. I think that'll be a really nice tool to have access to.
Great. Yeah, I would expect before the next quarterly report, you guys will probably all be pinged and included on that update before the next quarterly report, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? All right, if y'all have thoughts about other data visualization you'd like to see with the budget, please reach out to Alex and myself, and we will see what else will be useful.
All right, thank you, City Council, and thank you to Angela and the city staff for doing a great job as always.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item D, this is on for approval, a fund balance request for Firehouse software upgrade with Chief Audie.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. This is a request it's one-time money that's needed to do an upgrade with our Firehouse software. Currently, Firehouse software we use on a daily basis. I believe it was like 6 years ago that we entered into our first initial run with Firehouse. We moved the rental registry, inspections, property data that we use, our fire emergency response data, and our personal management of our firefighters onto the current platform. Firehouse has been bought out by ESO, and they've bought several different pieces, which includes scheduling, pre-planning, making it web-based. Right now, we have to buy each seat that we have. So it's become pretty limited what we can do with it. So it's a much more robust platform, if you will. We're able to get rid of a third-party scheduling vendor that we have to use through the new bundle. And our reporting will be enhanced, much more enhanced, be able to provide a lot more data on property complaints, community risk reduction efforts. Certainly, right now, our truck checks that we do on a daily basis, sometimes a few times a day as the trucks come in and out, we can go paperless. So there's a lot of different pieces to this that will be enhanced by moving over to this new platform. Again, this is one-time money to kind of merge into their new system, and our annual fees will continue to be paid out of our annual request.
Thank you for the details. Are there questions from council? Any questions from the public? All right, do I have a motion to approve the fund balance request?
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second by Hal. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item E, this is introduction of Unified Land Use and Development Regulation amendments, which Eric will be introducing.
Yes, thank you very much. Tonight, I am here to provide a general overview to council about some amendments that are working their way through the process. These are regulatory amendments that either cover some editorial changes, some statutory changes, just general reformatting of the regulations for clarification and additional information that will help me as the zoning administrator better understand and provide more clarity on the administration of the regulations. These amendments have been reviewed in two separate pieces by the Planning Commission. In both cases, the Planning Commission reviewed and provided feedback to staff for the changes. Those changes were incorporated and brought forward to public hearings at subsequent Planning Commission meetings, and Planning Commission in both cases has forwarded those amendments on to council for consideration. So like I said, tonight is more just kind of a general introduction to the amendments so that you're familiar with them, and we will schedule at a future meeting a more detailed discussion to get into any of the substantive changes that you see fit. Just a few highlights, in a few cases we are adding new information. So for example, section 2.16 is a new section that will address properties that have multiple zoning districts. We're also doing a fairly large change of context, but not of actual regulation with Article 3. We're moving all of the downtown core regulations into Article 3. They're currently located in an appendix of the document, and the references in that appendix are basically, they refer to a previous version of the regulations that no longer exists. So it's both so you'll see in that set of amendments, while it looks like there's a lot of language that's being changed, it's really all the information in Article 3, in Appendix C is being brought forward into Article 3 to better align the regulations in that context. We're also changing some language in section 5.1, which addresses our accessory dwellings, and that is in response to some statutory changes that went through legislation in the last session. So making sure that we're consistent with state statute, and then just some general definitions and other minor changes to specific land uses and things of that nature. So it's kind of a general overview of what you got before you tonight. Included with the agenda were the statutory reports that outline the purpose, the intent, and kind of how the changes align with our municipal master plan as well. So you can get a sense of what's specifically being changed there.
Thanks, Eric. And I'll just provide a little summary from my time when the Planning Commission was reviewing these changes. As Eric noted, the accessory dwelling unit changes are in response to state statute changes. I don't believe we have done anything above and beyond what the state asked for. The downtown core, the Article 3 that he mentioned, felt very much like clarifications and no actual substantial changes to land use in Winooski. So in these sections, I don't recall there being anything particularly controversial from those meetings and discussions.
That's my recollection as well.
So questions? Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Oh no, I was going to say I'd be happy to answer any general questions tonight, and then, like I said, we'll come back at a future meeting to get into more detailed discussion if you choose, and then look at setting a public hearing for a future meeting as well.
Jim?
Thank you for both the memo and the context on this. This is really helpful, and I look forward to diving into it more. I am curious on the downtown core designation. It still includes the ability to move the green space boundary with future wetland delineations. And I believe in our interim zoning that we did to accommodate Lot 7D, we didn't make it as clear that you would be able to move that boundary over time, especially because the wetland boundary can move in and out, and instead keeping that as a static boundary that preserves the green space in which the wetland has room to move. I'm curious if that was discussed in the Planning Commission or if that's something that can be accommodated in these changes.
So I believe the language that was included in that section was brought forward from the interim zoning directly as a way to align that. One of the components with interim zoning is that it's interim until it can be made permanent. So I will double check to make sure that I did not bring in something that was not included in that interim zoning, but I believe that citation was specific to what was adopted by council.
I may be misremembering. Thanks for double checking on that. I appreciate it, Eric.
Sure.
Other folks have questions?
I guess I should, just from a process standpoint as well, from council can make changes and recommend changes to these documents as we go forward. So anything that is considered to be a substantive change, the reports will need to be updated, and those will go back to the Planning Commission, but the Planning Commission does not need to have additional hearings on this as long as council doesn't make changes after a hearing has been scheduled that are substantive. You can continue forward with your process. The Planning Commission does not have to hold additional hearings and agree to any changes that you would like to see incorporated, so that you're aware of how that process would go moving forward if you do decide to make amendments to these documents. Also, at the public hearing, we would invite Planning Commission, at least the chair, to come forward and speak about their process as well, as we've done in the past.
Thanks, Eric. Are there questions from members of the public? Again, you can use the chat or raise hand feature if you would like to speak. Hearing no further comment, thank you for the introduction, Eric. I think if this is your first time looking at our land use regulations, feel free to reach out to, I'm going to put you on the spot, Eric. Council, feel free to reach out directly to Eric if you have more questions after this, and we will see these changes again in the future.
Yep, actually, I was just going to say the same thing. If anybody has any specific questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. Thank you very much.
All right, so we are going to move on to item F, which is up for discussion. This is Winooski School District contract to support summer and after-school rec programming. Ray, take it away.
All right, and Nicole Mace is going to be coming over as well, I think, to join us. I see her in the attendee list. But just by way of table setting, we've been working over the last 2 weeks or so with Nicole and the team from the school around how best to leverage a portion of their ESSER funds, elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, which is the federal allocation on the ed side that came down through the recent legislation federally for COVID relief, and are working towards a contract that would be $300,000 annually to do third space out of school time, summer and after school programming. So a lot of details yet to come. We were awaiting some determination from the Agency of Ed at the state level on the procurement process for this contract. And so we just got that late in the day Friday. And so we will be coming back to council at the next meeting with some more details around programs and whatnot, as well as some new position descriptions for additional staff that we will need to carry out this large volume of programming work. But super excited to be here, really grateful, that the school reached out and considered us a partner on this. And yeah, can't wait to get started on providing the services that this will allow for Winooski residents. So happy to take any questions, as I know Nicole is as well.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So just a clarifying question. What's the shelf life for these funds? How much time do we have?
Nicole, I'm going to pass this one to you.
Want me to take that? So there are 3 different grants that the school district, so it's ESSER 1, 2, and 3. And so ESSER 2 has a date where the funds need to be spent by September of 2023. And ESSER 3 has a deadline of September of 2024. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to do some form of expanded recreation and after-school programming for the next 4 summers.
Great, thank you.
Maybe a little early in the conversations for this, but have you had any just like low-level discussion about the long-term outlook beyond that?
We certainly have, and I think I feel like a total wet blanket coming into these conversations because it's a huge windfall and really exciting opportunity. And I think we are certainly discussing the long game here of how we avoid sort of a cliff in 2024 when these funds do go away. So that's definitely going to be part of the planning and thinking as we develop strategies here and programs. I think I don't foresee a way where all of this can be carried forward, right? I don't think that suddenly those funds will just be magically available year over year into the future. But I think we really want to see, at the core, what's working really well, what's having a significant impact, and how do we as a community make a commitment to keep those things going if there's value there, perceived value there. So I know that's a little bit of a dancing answer, but I think, it is something we are thinking about certainly as we enter into this, and feel lucky that we've got, 3 years to really address it. It's not a one and done funding source. We're hopeful. So.
Well, this did make me think of, we've talked about summer programming in the past and trying to figure out what really works for the youth here, trying to get more folks using Thrive. And this does feel like that opportunity to, here are some resources to try some new things, see what works. And we should really, we'll want to evaluate what the best is coming out of this. But it's exciting to see and hear, like, there are quite a few different, it looks like, programming options that could be explored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we really wanted, when our team met, really wanted to make sure that what we were putting out initially in that scope of services with Nicole and her team was addressing, K-12. It wasn't just focused on elementary school or middle high. So I feel like we've got a really good slate here that's going to impact a lot of kids and families across that spectrum. So that's very exciting for us.
Big new stuff that we weren't anticipating for this year.
Yep.
Can I just add, just in response to that question, because Ray, I think, was very thoughtful about, what's going to happen when these funds go away. And the purpose of this money is really to provide additional supports to students as we emerge from over a year worth of social and academic isolation due to the pandemic. And so because the district is receiving a substantial allocation, it felt really important to use that money in the way it was intended. And I certainly feel good about a 4-year runway for us to evaluate what's really working and to phase in potentially fee for service programming, phase that back in. So it's not, 1 year, everything's available, and the next year it's not. I know folks at the middle and high school are really excited about the teen employment program, and that was a model that worked really well in the past and certainly could be integrated better with where we're headed in terms of graduation proficiencies, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of exciting work that can happen over the next 4 years that this funding gives us the opportunity to explore.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, I have a couple questions on, can this be an opportunity to partner up with YMCA? I see that they're going to offer swim lessons through certified lifeguards and instructors.
Yep.
The older students, this might be an opportunity if some of the older students already know how to swim to get them certified for future employment at the pool, that especially the students that can speak multiple languages, because that might be a win-win situation for everyone.
Yeah, no, it's a great suggestion, Mike. So Jess Lucas from the Y was actually part of our initial planning conversation with my team. We're very much wanting to look at aquatic programming as part of this slate. And not only in the summer, I think one of the exciting things too that we have been working on a little bit already, but I think this gives us a nice boost, is looking at the spring and the fall as opportunities to do some school-based aquatic programming and swim lessons, either through gym class or through an elective or something along those lines. So yeah, the Y is definitely at the table with us as we're thinking about this over the next couple of years.
Perfect. And I think for Jen's high school, I think it's you have to take that class. You have to learn how to swim at Virginia's high school in order to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might be an opportunity to partner up with another school district to find out how that actually works. My next one, it was the employment and apprenticeship programs. Are we going to reach out to local contractors, whether it's building, like especially the kids that go to tech, whether you're a building contractor or a landscaper, to give, a head start for some of these kids?
Yeah. So when we were running the program in the past, the vast majority of the positions there were within the city structure. We did have one partnership with Vermont Works for Women and had a couple students in their kitchen at the time who got ServSafe certification and then helped with the meal prep there. I think for this summer, realistically, just given the short runway of time to get a program stood up, I don't think we would look to partner outside the city for this summer. But I think knowing we've got 3 more summers, I think looking at local employers and figuring out are there ways to partner is definitely on the radar for us for future summers.
Awesome. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Great questions. Thanks, Mike.
Bryn?
I'm on mute. Yeah, this is very exciting. So I'm happy to hear all about this program work that and funding resources coming our way. So I was curious if there's any performance goals that are available, like number of youth anticipated to be served or that we're aiming to serve with this funding year over year.
I think those will be in development as we get closer to finalizing a contract. So, as a comparative, our 21C grant that we work under through the school district has those very things in it. How many students, how many repeat I can't remember the term that they use, but essentially how many students do we see across multiple programs? So we're tracking not only kind of raw numbers of students attending, but individual attendance across various programs. So I think we'll likely see similar tracking expectations from the school. And I think I'd looked at Nicole a little bit. I don't know how much you know at this point about what the data expectations are going to be from the Fed. I think there's still, admittedly, I think still a lot of questions out there about the details of this funding that we're kind of waiting on answers for. But yeah, we will definitely be tracking performance over time to see how things are going and what's working and what's not.
And then I was wondering how there might be interconnection with nutrition support during the summer.
Mm-hmm. So funding wise, I'm not sure that this pool and the summer food program pool are going to overlap. With that said, we had a long conversation at the end of last week with Nicole and Nina from the Abbey group, among others. So we are looking at how to integrate the school food program into these programs as a support. So if we're running a summer camp, leveraging that school's summer food program to provide lunch for kiddos. So again, I'm not, and again, sorry to put you on the spot, Nicole, I'm not sure how those funding streams on the school side overlap or interplay, but it's definitely, food is definitely part of the goal here as we bring kids together.
Yeah, so the school district has agreed, if this partnership goes forward, to serve as the sponsor for all city program meal sites. So we would facilitate all the paperwork and reporting and training requirements. And then that would ensure that all program participants at these sites have access to meals. And depending on the length of the program, it would either be a breakfast and a lunch or a snack.
Okay. Awesome. That's great. And then I, wanted to second Mike's questions about certification opportunities, wilderness first aid, lifeguard training, anything that offers opportunity to show leadership and advancement in skills for resume building, which can be especially hard in high school. So yep. If there's opportunities to integrate components of that, certainly want to advocate for that too.
Yeah, and just for you, Brandon, I'm not sure how much you knew about the program when we were running it in the past, but it was through a Department of Labor grant, and essentially more or less 20-hour per week positions through the summer months, 18 of which were work hours, and then 2 hours every week were dedicated to job skills training and or prep for certification. So not all the positions we had came with a certification, but we tried really hard to figure out through DOL especially, what are some kind of industry norms that we can bring in around certification. So ServSafe is a great example where that's a really portable certification that, a lot of restaurant industry folks are looking for as they're hiring. So we'll definitely be looking at that as we bring these positions back online.
Sure. I also imagine there's going to be an ample amount of funding and work interest for weatherization throughout the state too. So
nice
opportunities there as well.
Yep. Great call.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions from council? All right, Jesse.
So as we're wrapping up here, I just wanted to really thank Nicole for being here tonight and for thinking of us. I think this is one of the huge strengths of our community, is being a single city, single school district. When opportunities like this come up, to partner and move efforts forward faster together than we could individually. It's really just a huge benefit to the organizations and the neighbors at large. So thank you, Nicole, for thinking of us and for being here tonight.
Well said, Jesse.
Really, very excited about it.
All right, we'll then move to item G, which is up for approval. This is a Department of Children and Families Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit of a broken record here in a good way with this, but this is another allocation of funds from the state to support licensed childcare programs. So Kate applied for this a few weeks ago. We were fortunate to get a pretty exciting allocation here. Frankly, it was more than we were anticipating. So total allocation of $32,452.37, split out over monthly increments between now and the end of the calendar year. So that's a huge deal for us in terms of Thrive. We're still operating with a little bit of a staff heavy model, given that we're trying to keep the sanctity of the pods at the school and keep groups separated there as best we can. So this is going to be a really big help to kind of help keep Thrive fiscally solvent for this year in spite of those additional costs. So very happy to have that support from the state.
That's great. Thank you, Kate, for her hard work.
I do every day.
Any questions? Yeah. Bryn?
Yeah, I'm curious how much of this funding is subsidizing costs, and I recall at a previous meeting, maybe February, discussion about moving to a 4-star program and expenses related to that. So how much is funding subsidizing access to the programming, and will any of this funding be used to move towards that 4-star rating?
It's a great question, Brent. So in terms of subsidizing access, and I'm going to look at Angela here, but I don't have the scholarship numbers right in front of me, but we've definitely seen an uptick this year in scholarship need, especially for a lot of our partial subsidy families who are getting some help from the state, but have a copay of varying levels. So we've seen a pretty significant increase in need there. So this funding will definitely help kind of offset some of those revenue losses, essentially. And then again, as I mentioned, with the additional staffing that we're carrying right now, that's just an added cost burden that we feel is necessary to keep, stay in line with licensing and keep kiddos safe. But that's a higher staffing cost burden than we typically take on in a year. So I think those two areas are really primarily where we're going to try to apply these funds. The requirements, truthfully, are pretty broad in terms of how we can apply these. We just need to make sure that we can justify the cost and not be, essentially supplanting other dollars. So, Angela, I don't know if you have those scholarship numbers right in front of you or off the top of your head.
I don't have the scholarship numbers right off the top of my head. I did want to echo Ray's statement that this is very broad money, but they did make statements within the grant document that they do need to be COVID related expenses. Mm-hmm. So revenue loss related to program being underfunded or people needing additional financial assistance due to COVID and job loss is absolutely acceptable, as well as the additional staff that we have on board, PPE equipment that we're still purchasing. I don't think that going towards the 4th star would be an applicable use of the funding. However, we do have other sources of funds that we are able to use for that purpose.
Mm-hmm. And I think, Brent, truthfully, with everything we've had going on this year with COVID, the 4-star has definitely been a little bit on a back burner. I think as we come into the school funding and have some opportunities to, I think pair that with this funding opportunity, my hope is that we can increase some of our administrative capacity within Thrive to start looking at that as we enter into the new fiscal year here. But it's probably going to be a fall project because we're anticipating a pretty big growth in summer based on some discussions with the school we've been having so far. So it's out there, but probably a little ways yet.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was any opportunity of overlap or leveraging that would help move the needle at all, but I'm certainly happy that the funding will offset some scholarship need.
Mm-hmm.
Do other folks have questions? Any questions from our public attendees? All right. Does someone want to move to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hal, second by Jim. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Ray. And you'll stick with us for item H, our snack bar lease.
Yes. So I am not at my house. I'm in my office, and it's a good thing because my children would probably be cheering and screaming in the background for this item. We are super excited to be here with a proposed lease with our partners from Little City Creemee, Winooski owned business. So Aisha and Dan are here with us. And as mentioned in the cover sheet, we did a competitive bid process for this lease and had a loan applicant, which frankly made for an easy decision, but I think it would have been either way. Dan and Aisha did a great job putting together a menu that I think is pretty accessible and pretty exciting. I know I plan to eat about 1 million Creemees this summer myself. So yeah, we're just excited to be here. And I think the way we structured this lease is really, I think because there are a lot of question marks going into this first year of the pool, I think a good way for both, a safety net for Dan and Aisha, but also an opportunity for us to capture back some of the expenses around increased utility usage and things like that. So really trying to structure things here in a way that I think is good for both sides. And in talking to both City of Burlington and Vermont State Parks, who have contracts with vendors in a similar way in their facilities, this is a similar approach to the way that they operate their leases. So happy to take any questions, and good to see you, Dan and Aisha. It's been a couple weeks, but hello.
Yeah, welcome. And if you, Aisha or Dan, if you want to share anything, by all means, welcome.
Well, thank you for having us. We're super excited to have you, or have us, and can't wait to get turning for all y'all. And thank you for the opportunity so much. It means the world.
Thank you.
Yes. I see lots of hands. So anytime.
Hal, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been a long time coming, I think, for city. And I guess my question is, what contingency plans do you have in place to deal with lines around the block?
Just like management for COVID regulations? Or just like make sure everybody is like getting around?
Well, yeah, just the volume, I think, that you may experience, because we've been overdue for this.
Manage the enthusiasm.
I mean, we definitely have to have stocked up. I know the first couple of weekends are going to be slammed, so it's going to be lots of mix pre-made, and just keep on going. I'll have some support from my husband, some friends to keep on going, support and see where it kind of goes. I know it's going to be absolutely slammed the first couple of weeks, but it's all about preparation and being ready and planning.
Yeah. And I'll just say too, Hal, I think we're very much wanting to be a partner in that planning, especially as it relates to the COVID precautions. And, we're having similar conversations on the aquatic side for the pool of what are we going to do when we're kind of overrun with people that want to get in the water. So I think we'll have a parallel approach there with what these guys are up to and kind of how we're managing the front desk at the pool.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a partner here. Kind of like it's going to be like figuring out as we go. Yeah. It's definitely a learning experience this year.
Thank you.
Bryn?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could just share some history about your business, and just so we can get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, started this past winter doing full dairy. We did kind of like pies and different desserts, and we noticed that everybody kind of was doing ice cream as well during the COVID pandemic. So we did a total pivot and are going to be doing plant-based creamies. And so everything's going to be pretty much plant-based and vegan. I went to school for culinary arts for 4 years. We moved here a couple of years ago from New York just to slow down, and worked locally in local grocery stores and UVM as well. And saw that there's a huge market for just dietary creamies, or just anything dietary needs. And I knew I had the support, knew I can do it, and kind of dove into it. We were going to do a mobile unit, but then we kind of saw this opportunity and just kind of switched again to keep on changing.
Yeah, I know that I certainly have a lot of friends and family that are have dietary restrictions. So I think having those opportunities will serve a valuable need for sure.
And it's definitely not for this. It's more for dietary issues and for like cultural and like religious beliefs too. Because I know there's people cannot eat dairy or like egg products as well due to cultural beliefs or religious values. So I think that's added value to us as well, especially for Winooski too. It's so diverse here.
Thank you. And a question for Ray. I'm just curious about the waste management on site. Is that going to be under the city's purview, I'm presuming.
Yep. So we've been in the works with DPW around getting dumpsters and figuring out compost pickup, and we're scoping out bins to order in partnership actually with the community cleanup purchases that we're planning to make for some Landry Park bins. So that's all in the works and part of the thinking. And we will have 3-stream trash bins on either side, both pool side and park side, for the snack bar, and then we'll work with these guys to manage that throughout the day and at the end of the day.
And we also have everything's compostable as well on our side for the guests.
Great. All right. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, well, we might know a guy that can handle waste. So my question is hours of operation. I didn't see that anywhere. What's the plan with the hours of operation?
Right now we're planning Wednesday through Sunday, 12 to 8. 12 to 8.
That's perfect, because if you go to some of the other Creemee stands, you have to wait at least a half hour, 20 minutes to get a Creemee.
Yes.
It's not really fun with children.
So I think there's a park right across the street, so hopefully it'll be a little manageable.
Well, this might fall into suit with if we get the program going, the after school program going for the summer too.
Yeah.
There's some opportunity here too, I think. And I think this is a great idea, and I'm super stoked about this. And I think the children, and not just children, but us adults, will be happy with this too.
Yes, we're excited.
This is great.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Are there any questions from members of the public? All right, hearing no concerns.
I got one more thing. If there's a need of something, I'd like to extend the invitation to reach out to the Kenneth R. Myers Memorial Pool Foundation. If some things get in the weeds, we can partner up. I'm sure that my family will be more than happy to assist in anything you guys need to.
That'd be great. Thank you so much, Mike.
Yep, that's fine. And as long as Ray and I will, or Ray and the foundation, not myself, the foundation will be in cahoots too.
Sweet. That sounds awesome. Just looking forward to it so much.
All right, would someone like to approve this lease?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Hal. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Little City Creemee. We will move on to item I, FY22 Community Development Fund. Heather, is there any additional introduction you'd like to do on this item?
No, I just want to say this is the second piece to what you did earlier as the WCDC Board of Trustees. So you have received and allocated these funds to the general fund. Now I would like you to approve them for the community development budget.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns from council?
I'm still thinking about ice cream.
Would someone like to move to approve the FY22 Community Development Fund?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Jim. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. I am going to call a 5-minute recess before we move on to item J. So let's reconvene at 7:53, please. so let's reconvene. I am seeing most of my counselors. Here we go. Okay. So we are on item J. This is our policy priorities and strategy report out. New items on the document are in red. Is there anything you wanted to call out specifically, Jesse?
The only item I want to really highlight was the tax delinquency rate that Angela shared as part of this report. It's still remaining very low, on par with prior years, if not a little lower. And we're very thankful for that. So it puts us in good financial standing. That's all I want to highlight, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about other items on the report.
Thank you. Yeah, there's nothing really on here that was a surprise. All of these updates were kind of expected with what we have seen. I do not have questions. Do other members of council have questions? Bryn, this might be the first time you're seeing this priority document.
I've seen it. I haven't studied the changes.
I think all the updates that I see in here are like the progression of work that has been going on. I don't believe there's anything in here that's like, what's the word I want? Like something going off track, basically.
Okay. I did just notice the centennial celebration and the announcement that went out today about the next meeting coming up. Amy was on that commission previously. Is there going to be another counselor appointed to that role?
So that actually wasn't a council appointment. That is like a new role. That committee is new. So that's like a new role that she has taken on since leaving the council.
Oh, okay.
And just for a little context, Bryn, you may know this already, but since we didn't do because of the pandemic and the state of uncertainty that we were in last year, we didn't do our regular priority and strategy planning. And so this was sort of more staff put this document together for all of the work that we were already committed to doing and going forward with. Although it does kind of look like what we were doing before as well, with the regular report outs from staff. So, Jim, I saw a hand briefly. Did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask about the ordinance update for equity in the system on the housing standards and public building registry. And I apologize because I feel like this is in one of the agenda planners that we've seen, but Chief Audie or Jesse, is there a time when we expect to come back to that, or is that kind of still deprioritized and kind of out in the future a ways?
Sorry, I heard equity in there and then the registry or the ordinance on the public buildings. Is that
the public building registry update?
Yeah, so that is one of our huge COVID casualties. It has been deprioritized. Audie and I spent a great deal of time on that right before COVID hit. And it is on my desk. I owe Chief Audie a outline of an ordinance update, and I hope to finish that in the next month. It does need to be addressed because there is a structural problem in the rental registry budget without that equity in place. So I think the hope would be that would come to you over the next 3 or 4 months. And it's an ordinance change, so we'll have to go through the ordinance approval process.
Great, thanks for that update on timeline. And then can I ask another question that's completely unrelated? Thanks. And Ray, this is probably to you. I saw that mentioned the maps of the draft maps are developed for some of the parks under the Parks and Open Space Master Plan. I'm just curious what the kind of direction on those is. Is it around the actual changes to the park landscape, or just curious more what those are?
Yeah, sure. And Eric's here too. He's been sort of the technological mastermind behind this for us. But yeah, so the idea is that we just haven't had a particularly accurate set of trail maps to date for the existing infrastructure that we have. So my team over the last couple months with Eric's help has gone out and gotten the data, brought that into the GIS format, and is now we've got to go back out and do the ground truthing and make sure that those maps that we put together, kind of connecting the dots, jive with the reality. And then the idea there is that we'll have those maps available through the website, through other means for community members to use. And it's not so much related to development of new infrastructure at this point, although there are a few spots as we've been out that we did notice potentially the need for some trail work in the future. So it's been admittedly a little bit on a back burner as we get pool, community gardens, and just sort of general spring stuff up and going, but hoping by mid to end of summer to have those available publicly for folks to be starting to use.
Great, thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Bryn?
I did notice, might have been a Digger article this past weekend about Burlington going through reappraisal. They're, a couple months ahead of us on that. And just the community reaction to that information. So I don't know if there's any lessons learned that we can incorporate as we go out with the RFP. I know that there's a lot of thought going into this. So just an opportunity.
Yeah, so they're actually probably a year and a half out ahead of us. The reappraisal here likely won't start until this time next year. But yes, we are working to finalize a contract for those assessing services and reappraisal services to come back to you on May 3rd. And there will be lots of community outreach built into that. And the vendor that we're looking to contract with is one that's done many reappraisals across the state as well, so has that expertise in hand.
Are there any other questions on this latest update? All right, any questions from the public? So we will move to item K, Lot 7D, Abenaki Way redevelopment update and next steps. Is there any context you want to share in the open session before we move to executive?
Just for benefit of the public, because it's fairly unusual for us to meet in executive session on private development projects repeatedly. So just to tell the story to the public a little bit, this project has been significantly impacted by COVID. Office space needs are changing. Hotels are not being financed at the moment. So we're working really diligently with the developer to try and move forward with something that's not only beneficial to downtown, but financially feasible for the city. So that's what we're working on. And of course, if when things become ready for a vote, those votes will happen in public session, and we will share broadly the details of those development priorities.
Thanks, Jesse. So we have this slated for executive session as negotiation of real estate and lease issues in public, put us at a disadvantage pursuant to VSA section 3132. Similarly, we have on our executive session agenda discussion of the North End Studios lease. Also, per the same state statute, would put us in a bad position to do those in the open. And third is negotiation of the Fraternal Order of Police labor agreement. So again, section 3131B, those negotiations would put us at a disadvantage in a public meeting as well. So I am looking for a motion from a counselor that we should indeed have this executive session because of that state statute and being put at a disadvantage by not doing this in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, and so then I am looking for a motion to enter into executive session, inviting Jesse Baker, Heather Carrington, Phoebe Townsend, John Rauscher, Chief Hebert, and Bob DePalma, who will be joining us there. Our turn.
So moved.
So move.
Motion by Jim, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. So we are going to move to another Zoom line for this executive session. We will attempt to return to this one only to adjourn, although last time we had a long session, this Zoom timed out. So we will make the attempt. We won't be discussing anything else during this executive session besides these topics, and then adjourning at the end. All right, and I think Jesse just forwarded the email with the link, so it's at the top of our inboxes.